So now we're going to move into pricing, right? So here's the price, 385,000. Here is the escrow deposit that's going to accompany the offer. So I have within 3 days, right? You can leave this blank. I don't like leaving nothing blank, so I'm going to be within 2 to 3 days, however you want to do it. I'll put 2 days. They have to deliver this 5,000. If they don't, then the contract is null and void. Here's the address. Here's the email address, the phone number for the title company. This would again be on the MLS. You can Google it, or you can ask the listing agent, however you prefer. Okay, so now this is, let's say this is a financing. This is going to be an FHA loan. I'm going to go down to C right here, and this is where I'm going to fill in how much is my loan for. And this is where you, the buyer and the lender, would have already discussed, and you already know. So I know FHA is going to let them borrow 96.5% of the $385,000. I know that because the buyer has to bring down 3.5% of the loan. So I'm going to go into the calculator and I'm going to do $385,000 times 96.5% of the loan equals $371,525. So that's what that's what has to get paid by for that's what the bank is covering for the property. Now my buyer put what, 5,000 down. So out of that, I'm going to take away $5,000 because I've already put that down, and now I come up with a total of 366,525,000. That's where you would put balance to close, not included buyers, closing costs, prepaids, or proration by wire transfer or other collected funds. This is what is total due, not everything. This is just what's due from the loan. So 366. 525, and now my friends, this is all completed how you do it here. Another way to do this, which I don't like it, it's the lazy way. You can go like this. If you're a listing agent and you see agents do this, not bad. It's just a little bit, it's just a little lazy to do that. If you don't, if it's a different complicated, if you don't understand, this would always be a safe word for you. Okay, but we know what the price is, so we're going to leave that right there. Time for acceptance is we're going to give them 2 days for them to accept the property, and now that part of it is already complete. Now we're going to go into the second page. The close date, we already have the close date in here. Make sure that this is selected. Everything here looks good. So I'm going to move down to number 7, assignability right here. You always want to select this. If you're a listing agent and someone's sending you an offer and they send you something like this, may assign and therefore be released to further liability of this contract, this is a 100% no. I never accept an offer with something like this. Mainly wholesalers use things like this, or people that are not serious. If somebody selects that, they're not a serious buyer. Right here, may not assign this contract if the box is checked. This is the best way you're going to get your offers accepted. And then financing, we're going to go into, sorry, not A, we're going to go to B because I said this contract is contingent upon my buyer getting a loan for 30 days, right, an effective date, and it's going to be an FHA loan. That's what they're going to select. That's the property that they selected. And then it's going to be a fixed. I'm going to be a fixed, not to exceed, whatever, if you want to do that, 8%, and a term of 30 years. If left blank, their buyer shall make application within the first 5 days. Make sure you select that right there. If they already did the application and they approved, like our buyer from Responsive Mortgage, we pretty much do cash offers, then you can do 1 or 2 days. This becomes irrelevant at that point because we already pre-qualified all of our buyers up front. Okay? So you'll go down, and then the next thing you would do is right here, if the buyer, here you have a transaction fee, so you would put in a $300 transaction fee to Realty. Okay, and then here, this is just going to sneak this in. If they are charging you an MLS fee, the listing agent, here's where I would probably do that. So I would do like MLS $350 fee or something like that. Okay, MLS, boom. And then that would be responsible for me to throw it back into the listing agent because I don't want to pay their fees. Okay. So if you're on our team, I'm going to show you how to not pay those things. And this is one of the ones you want to look for, 141. So if it's there, just make sure you put it in here because we're not going to go by word of mouth. We're going to go by what's on the contract always. Okay. Section here, and here's where we would select line 172. Seller shall designate the closing agent and pay for owner's policy and charges. So I always want to select theirs because this will save the buyer money. If I'm the listing agent and the buyer wants to select it, I would let them do it too because it would save my seller money. But in this case, the seller already selected this, so I'm only going to select this one right here. I don't have to worry about that because I am not in Miami-Dade, but for my Miami-Dade partners, you would have to fill this in, unselect this one, select this one, and then put in whatever the fee is, $200 at the maximum there, okay? Then we'll move down to home warranty. If I'm representing the buyer, I always want to get them a home warranty if I can from my Home Warranty America folks. You want to meet them. They are awesome. And so make sure you reach out to her. I think her fee is 801. But Nicole will have this information. So make sure this is in there. This is what we want to make sure we get them with every house. So that way the seller feels comfortable that they don't have to worry about doing anything extra after they close. They have a home warranty, and it's a peace of mind for everybody. And then here you want to select line 194, seller shall pay installments due to prior to closing, and buyer shall pay installments due after installments of prepaids and due of the year of the closing. This is if they're in an association and there's any special assessments that are currently going on. Some sellers pay it. Some buyers want the seller to pay it if they're in the middle of something on the contingent, but it's very rare. So for us, just select A always, unless we have that conversation and the buyer wants them to pay it and they really understand that. For the most part, they won't. This is standard that seller pays to a certain degree until they own it, and then because that has nothing to do with the buyer and the seller, it has to do with the community, the property, and the location. Okay. And so we're moving down here. We're getting over towards the end. And so the inspection, here's where you want to protect your buyers right here. Okay. If you want them to accept it, 7 days is the minimum, 10 days is a comfortable spot, 15 is the max, unless they're doing a lot more inspections. So here we'll put, 10 days to protect my buyer and give them enough time to do the 4-point, the home inspection, the wind mitigation, the septic inspection, any kind of drywall, AC inspection, whatever I need. I want to make sure my buyer is comfortable. You like the house, we're moving forward. If not, we got 10 days to pull back, and we only have the inspection investment in it, which is $400 to $500. And then this stuff is pretty standard that you went through with Natalie Cox. And here we'll get to the end of, if this is an FHA, here's the attachments. If there's anything on the MLS that's already attached, I want to add it here because I'm going to add it with my contract. So in this case, we're going to do a FHA VA and then a lead base because it was built 1978 or sooner. We're going to add it with the loan. That's a different document that you would have to have signed in apart from the contract. So we have those. Everything looks good. Now the additional terms, my buyer needs some help on some closing costs. So what we want to do is buyer requests seller to credit buyer 5% of closing costs towards at closing. Okay, so this is pretty standard. Always has to be buyer request, not you request. Always has to be from the buyer requesting to the seller. Buyer requests seller to credit the buyer 5% of closing costs at closing. Save that. That's there. Now we are preparing our offer. Just make sure your information is there. Your information, the listing information is there. So this would look like this on an official offer. I'm just showing you how to prepare this. But if you had a real MLS with real buyers and sellers, this would auto-populate. It just sees my name, and that's why it's doing that. Okay, and so you would put LPT Realty. Make sure all the spelling is correct. Now what I did to get in here, my L is not working on my keyboard, but sorry about that. Boom, LPT Realty. Okay, perfect. Boom. Perfect. Okay. And then that is complete here. And this is completing your first offer here. Then you would save it, obviously, so you would have all your changes don't get lost. And so if I were to send it, I would go back before I send everything and I'm going to review it. Make sure there's no mistakes on the name. Make sure there's no mistakes on the property address. Make sure there's no mistakes here and I didn't miss anything. I'm going to go very slowly and check this out. You have a template, a sample. Make sure you have that. Okay, so then I would continue to just make sure to see that I didn't make any mistakes. This is selected. This is selected. FHA. I have everything filled in here. Boom. Now this right here is just protecting my buyer. These are clauses to protect them, okay? Just so you know. Boom. Got my fees in there, title, Perfect. I missed this. You see, I don't like leaving blank spaces, so you have up to 15 days. So just fill it in there. That way, there's no blank spaces. You look more professional. Obviously, this doesn't to pertain to the Stellar MLS, so that's okay. Everything is selected here. Everything about permits. Boom. 10 days on my inspection. That's my get out of jail card for my buyers again. So I have 2 or 3 defaults here. So like if the inspection works and then they go through, but then the interest rate goes up and it goes over 8, then I protected them and they can get out of it. They don't lose any kind of escrows. So my contract here is geared towards protecting my buyer to get out with these kind of contingencies. And then this is a negotiation. Doesn't mean they're going to accept it, but it's a good start of good faith for my buyer to say, wow, my agent is working hard for me, 5%. If I can get that, then I really, I have to come to the table with, less than 2% of money out of pocket to buy a $400,000 home. That's, 48 grand. Most people pay that in their deposit of their rental lease. They'll never get back. Okay, so make sure that this is all good and collect and safe, and then I would save and share to my buyers as long as I reviewed it here. That's the next step that I would do. Make sure that all the parties are here. Obviously, Mason Title doesn't have to do that, but it would be like your buyer, your first buyer, your second buyer. You would select their name, and then you would do can sign if it's not already selected. I'm an agent in the system and a buyer. That's why my stuff is funky in here. But this would say sign for your buyers. It would be a lot less complicated with a demo account or with your account than my account. Okay. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out, text, here, comment on the wall. Here in schools, or if you're getting this through your email, feel free to respond back with any kind of questions. But congratulations, you just prepared your first contract and executed it. In the next video, we will learn how to prepare it, draft it, and send it over to your listing agent to get it accepted. Okay.